Hi, my name is Merce and welcome to another classical guitar tutorial. This is the continuation of the video of 3 simple steps to play cleaner, where I show you the 3 most essential techniques to start to play and sound cleaner. If you haven't seen the video, I would suggest that you stop this for a second and you go and watch it, because I'll give you the fundamentals there about what follows in this video, as it's going to get a little bit more complicated. If you're enjoying my tutorials, please take a second to share it, that will help me so much. Now, the reason why I left the third way how to mute strings out from the first part is because it involves actually many variations. We will be damping the sounds with the left hand. And we have 4 different ways how we can do that. We can do it with a fingering choice, with a free finger touch, we can do it with a flat fingering positioning, and with what I call the Barre. Let's go one by one. I would recommend that you take the guitar and you try to read the scores that I will put here in the video so that you can play along. They are easy passages, they are easy things that you can just sight read, just that you can try it out, and this is really the best way for you to fully understand actually what I'm saying here and to really retain how these methods actually work. The fingering choice, what I mean is that we are transforming a note that could be easily played in open string, like an E, and we decide to play it as a fretted note. And that can obviously happen with any open string. One of the most important policies that you should have as a guitar player is not to choose fingerings for what is easiest to play, but what is the most adequate according to the articulation and phrasing of every passage and every type of music. In situations where the fretted note has the same musical outcome like the open string, it can help you a lot to clear resonances. I'll show you a very common example in Mauro Giuliani. We have a descending scale in the Rossiniana number 1, and check what happens if I don't mind the open strings. Now, instead of leaving all these strange resonances that don't belong to the harmony, now we could play it with fretted notes instead. The directionality of the scale, when it's maintained as a one-voice construction and not all these strange resonances on top of it or below of it, depends on the direction you go, it is so much more powerful and striking. So if you have any piece that has this type of descending scales, you could actually check if any other fingering possibility would actually work better musically wise. Now, the second variation is the free finger touch. That is a little bit more awkward maybe, or more new to many people, but is a very useful resource. Remember the very first and easiest way to dump the string, which is just coming back to the string right after playing it? Well, if we see this bass line in here, it might look like we could do that just like this, right? We have A, F, we go to stop the A, we go back to the D, open, then we go play the E, stop the D, and then we play the A, and we stop the 6. Well, not really. Unfortunately, if I show you the rest of the score, you see what happens on top, right? These kind of situations will condition a lot actually what the thumb can and cannot do, because sometimes it becomes that demanding the arpeggio on top that it's really not feasible to just jump so much more with the thumb. Giuliani is a composer that exposes to these dilemmas of the open strings all the time, because he exploits a lot the possibilities of the classical guitar. That's also one of the reasons why he uses so often the tonalities like A major or D major, just because he can use these open strings. So in this excerpt, which actually there's a almost exact same situation in the Opus 107, with the handle variations at the very end of the piece, the right hand is extremely busy with all these ascending arpeggio. So in this case, the free fingers of our left hand have to come to our aid to stop all the resonances. Without the proper damping technique, it actually sounds like this. A total chaos of harmonies. Now, only with the help of the left-hand fingers, you can actually clean this type of cadenza-like passages. And what we do is the following. So we have the first arpeggio, And then we need to play the F sharp, but we need to stop the A. So we simply just lean the second finger down, touching the string, so that we stop the vibration. We don't need this finger, we can just keep it here, and it will stop the sound. And then we don't have. This. Now the second half of the bar, we will have this chord, and then we jump to the bass, to the 6, leaving the 4th string open. Well, we can easily actually stop it with the first finger. It's right here, it's doing nothing, so we can use it. So we have this. And this finger stopped the 4th. I'll try one more time and I'll exaggerate the bass so you can hear when the D stops. Now without stopping it. See the mix? This dumping technique in particular, I think is the hardest for many people to pick up, but if you're practicing something like Giuliani or any other composer of this time, you should really apply those things in certain passages, and working individually such sections is gonna help you a lot to actually gain the finger awareness for that. And so, if you have a passage like this in one of your pieces, how can you practice it? Actually, it's very easy if you just take it into steps. Let's take first the first 2 pulsations, so the first beat and the second beat. So we'll have this. This is without the dumping. So I would recommend that you first play the chord until the next bass, and then you consciously bring the second finger on the 5th string to dump it. So you have the 5th open, and now you stop it. You can make it rhythmically, like, and here you dump. And then every time you decrease the distance of the finger dumping. So you bring it closer and closer to where it should be. So we go like this. Dump, dump, dump. And then you can play it together as you land the 3rd finger. And then you can also do the same for the other block of the 3rd and 4th pulsation. So the second half of the bar, we have 4. And we will need to change to the G sharp here as we put the first finger there. Now do the same process again. You first play the bass, and then you consciously bring the finger there with a break in between. Dump. So you bring it down, and then you make it every time closer. Dump, dump, and then you put it together. You link the connection between the chord change with the landing of this finger. You basically start to conceive this finger sitting on there, staying on the string, as part of the chord, as part of the positioning of that chord. In that case, we have this. Instead of having only the 3rd finger, we have the 1st finger here, muting the 4th. So you can easily apply this system to any passage that you have where you might need to dump the strings with the left hand. The 3rd way we are going to be muting strings that are sounding far too long is using a flat finger positioning here on the left hand. For this, I will take as an example the first study by Carcassi from the Opus 60. I take this because it's generally played with great abundance of resonances that destroy the linear character of the passage, that create a quite arbitrary articulation and phrasing caused by all these open strings left unmuted. This is how it generally sounds. This is how more or less it should sound like. So what am I doing here? I'm actually adjusting ever so slightly the position, a little bit to a flatter position, like I'm bringing the hand maybe a little bit backwards, like if I'm like that way, let's say, but so less. So how do we get to practice this immediate muting with the left hand as we play? It's actually very easy. You can do this exercise. We could take, for instance, the first open string, and then one finger. We can take the third. And we play the notes together, both strings, and then you just tilt the finger a little until the first string is muted. That is all you need to stop a string from sounding. Ideally, the adjustment should be that little that you should have difficulties telling if I'm actually going down or not. And then you can repeat the same exercise, of course, with second finger. And of course, the fourth finger, let's not forget about it. If you find yourself doing a much too large movement, like this, then you can find a shortcut. You just need to make it flatter. You don't need to move the whole position backwards. You just need to approach the string a little bit more directly. And of course, you can practice this in any position, in any string. Of course, practice slower. I mean, that's just for the example, but you should practice it really slow until you get the movement. The last way to dump string is what some of us call ghost barre. The ghost barre is the technique where you actually place a bar with your first finger where you would actually not need it for the notes that are written. So let's take, for instance, the Opus 107 by Giuliani of these Handel variations. There we have some interesting situation. Here we have this ending chord that goes like this. Now I will not dump anything. It really becomes very, very, very nasty harmonically if you don't stop anything there. And here we actually have a kind of mini compilation of some things we have done before. So we have this stopping the 6 right after. And then, now the ghost barre comes here. We have this chord. And we would have, let's say, we would officially need only A here, and C sharp, right? These three notes. But if we only play these three notes, and we ignore that we had an open B here and an open D, we will have this very funny harmony that sounds like this. But if we just put a little barre, I already stopped the D string and the B front sounding, and then I can put the chord here and it will sound clean. So that's how it would be. Now here actually you could also make a mix with this 3-finger dumping that we did before. So instead of putting a barre until the 4th string, if it's maybe uncomfortable, you could also slide the first finger, place it like this, and you see that the second finger lands naturally on the 4th, on this D open that we had. So here we can stop it also like this. And the 4th is not sounding anymore. It's also under control. So my aim with this video is that you actually get to know the options that you have, the possibilities that maybe you didn't explore yet, and you start to apply it in what you're currently playing, no matter which type of piece is, if it's romantic, if it's baroque, if it's classical. If you analyze a little bit what you're playing and you're a little bit careful on what's actually happening and which sounds are remaining, which sounds you're cutting, you will start to develop a good eye about maybe options of fingering and stopping strings, and probably about having a better instinct for phrasing and articulation. So I'm sure that can help you really a lot in your development. As an extra damping technique, you don't have to forget that in your toolbox you already have something that you use very often probably, which is the rest stroke or apoyando. If you need to stop a voice that is sounding underneath to what you're playing, if you're playing a higher voice and you have a middle voice and some string stays there playing in between, you can play a rest stroke and you will immediately stop the string. Or in the opposite way, if you have a bass note that is sounding and you have a middle voice that is sounding somewhere higher pitched, you can just use the rest stroke if the fingering and the position allows it. So that's why I say you have to become creative with the fingerings, you have to become creative with things that you use and how you use them, so that all those things kind of work in your favor as you play. So I know that this tutorial maybe wasn't the easiest, but the point is that you can now go back to it and review the different sections. I would really recommend you that you really try to read the musical examples that I show in the screen with the guitar, and that you try the things that I'm talking about, because once you have tried something, once you have put it into practice, you will see that you will retain it and understand it in a much, much deeper level. And hopefully then you can retrieve all this information quicker and easier for your own pieces. Really, there is no better way to internalize things than just do them and practice them and just feel them on your own fingertips. I hope you found useful this tutorial. If so, please share it to other guitar players that you think that might benefit from knowing this. And that's my goal, to just contribute to the guitar community. So if you share it, I will appreciate so much. And as always, I wish you happy practicing, and I'll see you in the next video.